are these people talking to you? We are Natural Spaces Domes, and we are owned and operated by Dennis Johnson and Tessa Hill that you see in Dennis's box in front of you. Located in North Branch, Minnesota, we have a complex of an office dome, 3 model dome homes, a screen porch dome, 2 workshop domes, and a furnished prototype of the mini dome, our option for small living spaces. We invite you to visit our complex for an in-person dome tour wearing a mask at this time. Natural Spaces Domes are easy to build, healthy living spaces. They're fantastically energy efficient while providing you the best housing value around. We started Dome Talk as a way to engage with the dome community, create a forum for all your dome questions, whether you own a Natural Spaces Domes home or not, and to provide a space for dome enthusiasts to connect with one another, which is why we want to encourage you to have conversations with each other in the chat. Now I'd like to introduce our hosts, Dennis Johnson and Derek Miller. Dennis is the dome guru and has decades of experience designing and fabricating domes. He knows what works and what doesn't, and has designed over 1,000 domes worldwide. His patented dome connector system is the best available, and he will help you at every step of your dome dream as a contractor, builder, designer, and dome owner. You're definitely going to want to talk to Dennis. Our project manager, Derek Miller, joined the NSD team a few years ago, bringing with him a lifetime of construction experience, and he handles a wide variety of responsibilities for us. From collaborating with Dennis on project management and client contact to working in the shops to refining building techniques, he's familiar with that dome process from the ground up. He's also the video guy, filming and designing the educational videos for future classes and tours. So Dennis and Derek, would you like to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, hi. Glad you're able to be with us. I'm glad you're not here, considering the temperatures that we have here in Minnesota. But we're having a week where the next 3 days are going to be a high of -2 for 3 days in a row. That's the high. So, welcome to Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of questions for tonight, so I don't know if we just want to try to jump in and see how far we can get, hopefully through all of them, but I'm sorry, Tessa. Were you...
No, that's all right. I just decorate and cook, you know? Too bad you can't go to school. And because
I heard the pause and I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, let's just jump into it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. I was sorry. I was just busy logging our questions that are already in the chat, so I got distracted. All right, Dennis and Derek. Our first question comes from Jonathan in Manchester, New Hampshire. I actually know where that is. I was there last fall. Your PDF catalog mentions a large garage dome. We are erecting a 45-foot diameter dome garage, which will house 2 super cab trucks, your basic car, 2 cars being restored, a mower, tiller, bikes, topper, and a project area, along with a large loft. All this with no support posts. Can an entire second floor be supported without posts? If so, how is the floor supported? And he's got some examples: I-beams and laminated wood beams connected directly to the shell. And he's been considering building a home in stages, starting with the garage dome with an apartment space on the second floor, but assume that floor would need support. I did see listed on your site any specifications of this particular 45-foot diameter garage dome. Are any specifications available, such as dimensions of entrances and usable spaces and approximate costs? Whew, that's a big question. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I don't know, Derek, you want to take part of that, but you were in the shop today, and there's some pictures that we're going to show you of what he was referring to. And what we're dealing with is you want to put an apartment above that. That changes the whole makeup of things. If there's a reason that you can't or don't want a post to support that second floor, it can be done, but you're dealing with something. If you want to span 40 feet, you're probably dealing with a 4-foot high beam that you'd have to install with huge footings underneath each end. it's not really possible, I guess I would say, or let's say advisable to try to do that. We do have in this 45-foot diameter dome, there's a wall that separates it's about a 1/4 and 3/4 split. So there is a vertical wall, and I did have 6 vehicles in there when we built it. So what we're dealing with is a large beam, about 2 feet, 2.5 feet high, that we built, basically a box beam with 3/4 inch plywood, 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood on both sides. So it spans about 24 feet. And then we have an angled support posts. So if you're in a garage and you have to do that, and here are the pictures that show you this is our large, there's a combination of pictures I see here. This one here is our 40-foot diameter dome. And the picture, get my bearing straight here. The blue shop, as we call it, the red on the outside, but the inside is blue. That's a 40-foot low-profile dome, and the second floor is at 10 feet high. You can see on the upper left photo, there's angled supports. That's one way to do it. But what you have to look at is, why do you want this open space? It's going to cost you money if you say, I want totally free span space. And the idea really has changed in the last probably 5 to 10 years to create a vertical wall, not a dome wall, that's 9 feet high, create a trussed floor system going across. This is our large 45-foot diameter dome. Domes don't look big from the outside, they look small. This is 1,500 square feet on the main floor. So you're looking into the shop. Over on the left of that door, you'll see a dark space. There's a wall there that separates the main part of our shop from the other part. But being 45 feet deep, I could fit 2 super cab extended box, 8-foot boxes. I could fit those end to end inside of that. So there's a lot of advantages to that. But the reality is, you want to build a second floor over that to support a dome. Forget the triangle panels, the triangle walls. There's another company that has these ledger hangers. They are extremely expensive. And then you have to put in 4 by 12 beams on these ledgers. And the cost of doing that really is offset tremendously by a few rooms that you might have on the main floor. If this is a house, you've got a bathroom, you've got some closed space, and you can support the second floor on these interior walls. But in our shop, like I said, there's about a 24 or 25 foot long span. And on one end of it, on the right side of that long gray, dark gray beam, is an angled support. Actually on both ends of it. It's just you can see it better on the one end. So that's one way to do it, but it's a shop, it's not a house. So we look at your design and we go, okay, you want a garage apartment? Then build a totally separate garage. You have to separate that garage. It has to have fire-rated sheetrock on the ceiling and the walls. So if you're doing a dome on that part of it, it's a big deal to try to do that. So separate it, put a dome on top of straight vertical walls. That's the way that we currently suggest doing it.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. That's, you can definitely have a free spanning open space if you're not too worried about the second floor, but let's see. I think there's a picture in here that's kind of interesting though. Carrie, if you can go back, maybe one more. Oh, no. Okay. Never mind. It's in there somewhere, but that's okay. All right. I think we're ready for probably the next question, Carrie, if you want.
All right. Sounds good. Make sure I don't miss anything. All right, so make sure my mic's on too. It's just one of those days with technology. All right, so our next question comes from Jonathan from Israel, and I believe he's with us tonight. The question is, what is the fire resistant standard? And the interior panels, how is the wood made? And the opening for the dome shelf for doors and windows, how do you make it right?
Okay.
We're dealing with Jonathan here in Israel on his plan. He's got an architect involved. And the fire rating on the inside of a house is usually at best a 20-minute rating is what they call it for a fire. There's a door between the garage and the house, and they call it a B-label door, which is a 20-minute rating on the door, which means it can withstand a certain intensity of fire for 20 minutes. The interior paneling that you see in back of me and the interior paneling in back of Derek is spruce. And spruce actually has a 20-minute fire rating for some strange reason. Happened to be, that's the wood that we really like and we use. That's very economical, but it's also a really nice wood. It stays light. This paneling that you see in back of me was installed 15 years ago. This house is 15 years old. The paneling in back of Derek, now that's shaded partly because of the way we took the picture and stuff, but that was installed 38 years ago. So it's not dark. So how is it made? We make them out of 1x8 paneling. That's what we're doing. Opening up the dome, there's a whole thing that Jonathan is doing on his dome by opening up a whole side of his dome. Interesting point with Jonathan's plan is that he, as part of the requirement in Israel, has to provide a bomb-proof shelter inside of his structure as one of the rooms with an escape window that can get out. So there's a portion of the dome that's open, and there's another area that he's got open, and those are done with treated studs. I'm not sure if you've got the picture that shows the dome on Backbone Mountain in Maryland. That's Moynihan's dome. May not have, we're calling up things here that we're not sure if Carrie has. But we've done it. We've opened up the dome shell and had a framework and created a outdoor deck. This is the one here. So in this case, there's an outdoor deck, and below it is actually a drive-through area for dropping people off underneath the deck at the front door. So those are painted studs, but we use treated lumber, and then you can paint them because treated lumber can be painted. And the hubs are anodized, and there's the hub that we have that's anodized. I don't know if I'm on screen or not, but we have an epoxy coated sleeve and a aluminum hub that's had a Duranodic anodized finish. So these are designed for outside. Brackets that we do would be done in stainless steel. So I know I'm dealing with, I was just dealing with Jonathan earlier today on some emails. And Jonathan, I will get back to you tomorrow because we got to continue that conversation, but I had to go and prep for the dome class here. So there's some other questions he had, and we'll get those taken care of tomorrow. Do you have any other questions you want answered right now, Jonathan?
What he said?
Feel free to ask any more questions you may have right now if you like.
Oh, I have many. I don't want to take all the time. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll go on in the email. Thank you.
All right.
All right, Carrie.
Yes, I am ready. All right, so our next question comes from McKay in Pleasant Grove, Utah. What is the best way to go on the roof and do roof maintenance and repairs? I have some basic climbing gear, and I was thinking of maybe putting an eye hook in permanently and attaching a rope to it, but I don't know if that's a good idea or if there's a better way to do it.
Are you gonna hand that one to me, huh? Okay. Yeah, there's so part of my duties at Natural Spaces Domes is I'll go do repairs or updates on older domes. And so I've been on a lot of roofs, and typically an eye hook is not a bad idea as long as it is mounted into the strut. You don't want to just rely on the plywood. You want to make sure you're in a strut so that you have, you know, some good structure with that hook so it's not going to let go of you. And oftentimes a lot of people, they're either have a ventilated little cupola cap on top or a view cupola, and sometimes they'll just tie the rope around that and let that hang down and just use the cupola itself as a support. So there's a few options, and they both work really well. But yeah, you want to make sure obviously your eye hook is fairly significant, and you know, you're going to want to make sure it's not going to rust up there over the years. And you know, you got to waterproof them as well. It's hard when you put a big leg into your roof. You want to make sure that that's not going to obviously leak, but it's 100% doable, and a lot of people do it. So yeah.
Add to that, you want to really go to places like REI or Midwest Mountaineering. We have that here in Minneapolis, but it's a mountain climbing situation. You need the gear, you need the proper harness, and you want the D rings to be on the side or in the front for a full body harness. Our guys have actually a tree trimmers belt that has a seat sling, so they can actually sit in that. But they're hard to get, they're hard to find. But these are available. The body harnesses are available at Home Depot, Lowe's. You can mail order them. They cost in the range of $100 to $150. You might want to consider if you know how to use rope, an ascender descender unit, because that rope slides through that one way. Ascender means descender's going down.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely want that. And you had a special rope you like to recommend as well, Dennis, right? Like a braided nylon, I believe, or?
Yeah, we use a 1/2-inch braided nylon rope and tell people just leave it on the dome. It's going to last many years. If you start to see it frayed or anything, which you shouldn't have, because it shouldn't be really rubbing on anything, fine, replace it. But replace it before the fact that the rope comes off, and then you got to get up to tie the rope on.
Right.
Replace it with the rope still able to climb up on the rope.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's a good question, because it's nice to be able to get up there easily with a rope. So, all right, Carrie, I think we're ready for the next one.
All right. I am probably not going to pronounce this correctly, so I apologize in advance, but I believe this next guest is with us, and I'm going to say Loida is from Pleasant Grove, Utah. And the question is how to fix a leak on the roof. How much would it be? When we bought the dome, the seller posted that the roof was done over 4 years ago, which is currently 7 years now. A couple years ago, they noticed leaks in a few areas, and that year they had a really wet spring and lots of rainy days.
Okay.
You can kind of start out.
All right. Yeah, I would say I guess I'm trying to think of where she wanted to go with that question, but as far as how much it would cost, I guess that's kind of a tough one, of course, because it always depends on where you're at. But I would say per square, you're going to probably, if you were to compare it to a conventional home, you're going to look at least probably double the cost on a per square basis, just because there's more cutting involved. It's not hard or complicated. It just goes a little slower. So it's going to cost a little more for that reason. There shouldn't be any leaks if the roof is done correctly. However, I mean, there's no reason a geodesic dome roof should leak any more or less than a conventional house. But if you did either one of them wrong or you miss a detail, it might lead to problems. However, if it was done 7 years ago, even with lower end shingles, you should still get quite a bit of life out of it. So if there are some leaks, it might just be some isolated areas where they didn't properly roof it. In fact, I think, Carrie, there might be a couple of pictures in there that I think we might have of some dome roofs to kind of show some examples of how if you roof them wrong, even if they're brand new, they may leak. And I'll kind of let you get into the story a little bit, Dennis, since we're kind of on the dome roof thing, because this is a good example of how They used very inexpensive materials and did not do it correctly, and it did not last long.
Yeah.
So
Dealing with a house here that was done, and we've seen several examples of this. These are ridge cap shingles. That's what you see lining each of the joints on the outside of the shingles. Now, the first mistake here is they use 3-tab shingles. This is the cheap, really cheap 3-tab shingles. They do not work on domes. You see the line along the bottom of the shadow line? Those tabs are hanging there. The wind can flip them up really easy. There's an overlap kind of in the middle towards the top in that middle triangle. There are 2 of the tabs that are lifted up. So this whole dome was done in that as a re-roof on a hailstorm job by an insurance company. And this company just came along and said, oh yeah, we can do domes. Well, the owner sued them for this job, because you can see the shingles are coming off the ridges. Ridge caps at an angle collect water that goes behind it. And you'll notice the lines never are continuing across the dome. That's really hard to do. So the water goes behind and you have a leak. So this dome, they were taken to, well, they didn't go to court. They went to conciliation court and met lawyer to lawyer. And we were called in as expert witnesses. And here's the new roof that the owner got. Nope, not that one. There, that one there. So this is a house down in Minneapolis. It's hard to see. I didn't have a close-up picture, but we overlap the joints on the roof. This is how we've sealed roofs for many, 30, 40 years here. In the beginning, we just, we tried a few different things. We tried wrapping the dome with shingles. It didn't work. Architectural laminated shingles, buy the best you can buy. Right now, we recommend Malarkey is the company. That's a family name. And Legacy is the brand or the model of the Malarkey shingles. They are a 50-year shingle. That's 50, a 50-year shingle. They are class 4, which is the highest rating for hailstorm. They'll take 130 mile, they're rated for 130 mile an hour wind speed. And actually they'll do better than that. But you have to nail them on with 6 to 8 nails. You can't just use 3 nails and you're done. So it's a whole process in roofing. We do have a chapter that is available from our construction manual. Call it chapter 16 on roofing. And you can go online and you can order that. If you've got a roofer coming around saying, oh, I can do that, you need to say, how are you going to do that? And let him explain how he's going to do it. He may need to buy this. It's a $30 purchase, download it off of our internet. So with that, he knows how to overlap these shingles. The point up shingles are done first. Then you do the point down shingles on the first row and overlap the point up shingle by 5 to 6 inches. So it's a whole procedure, but it's carefully explained. And we offer, verbal assistance here, if you want to call us. We do, or we are planning to update a lot of the stuff, and the roof is one of them this spring. We'll be updating that with some video. So we will have video features available.
I did see we got a question pop up in the chat. How far do you overlap the Rinky shakes? I happened to catch that as I was going by there, and that's a little bit of a different application. The Rinky shakes really kind of rely on the underlayment more for the waterproofing, so there's not a lot of overlap on those. On the corners, a lot of people will just do maybe 1 inch. It's just enough to cover, make sure that your underlayment is protected from UV light and hail damage. And then the way the shakes themselves overlap on the sides and tops and bottoms are only a 1/2 inch overlap. So, so there's not a lot of overlap on the Rinkies. So, okay. Oh, here we go.
This is an aluminum shingle. It's got a color on one side and it's ridges. And this is a very heavy duty. This is a lifetime roof right here. You won't have any problems. We've had one close by here actually go through hailstorm. There's no damage. The ridges are so tight in here that you're dealing with the hailstorm hitting an edge and not having a flat surface to dent. So there was no damage on that one at all with the hailstorm. Yet there were 3 other domes in the area, and one of them had a really cheap roof. The entire roof was replaced. The 2 others had partial where the hailstorm had come through.
Yeah, I don't know if this will show up, but this is kind of how they look on a, it's probably not going to work with my background, so never mind. We'll have to, I'll grab a couple, I'll throw a couple of Rinky photos on our next dome talk so we can show those, show what the completed roofs look like. So, okay, and Carrie's probably searching for one now. We got a few, but maybe we'll throw one on later. But if you are ready for the next question, Carrie, I think we're ready.
Yeah, and our previous question asker was just following up to say that the years it didn't rain multiple days in a row, there were no, it was one rain multiple days. And so to know that we're seeing those leaves, that it's cutting down sort of underneath the roof. So some concern with that. All right, so following up on our next question is from Alvic in Toronto, Canada, and he asks, how much can we flatten a dome arch?
Well, the dome arch that we provide, or that we provide drawings for, or provide the arch if you're buying it from us, it's designed on the pitch of the arch on the top to be a 412 pitch. That is 4 units high for 12 units wide, whether that's metric or English. Less than that, the shingle manufacturer will not warranty the shingle. They might at 3.5, but it's 4 to 12 pitch, which is an 18-degree pitch. And if you want to flatten it, you need a slope for water runoff. If you're in snow country, in Toronto snow country, you got to be aware that you want ice and water shield on that entire whole arch, the side slope and the top slope. That's your underlayment. And you want to run that underlayment up the dome 6 feet. You know, you're going to get a snowstorm, it's going to pile, and the wind is going to pile and blow it up. And if you don't have the right insulation on the inside, if you didn't do it right, you'll have an ice dam problem at any joint like that. So the pitch on the top of that arch is critical. If you don't like it, redesign it somehow. We have a porch that we have out of our main door, and we didn't walk straight out. We have an overhang that comes down, so all the snow, and it's a metal roof on that particular porch, so the snow would slide off, but we walk out the end of it. So we don't get wet, we don't get the snow piling up in front of us to walk through. It's a design feature that you got to look at.
Right, right. Yeah, that's, you know, there are certain materials you could put on to have maybe a less of a slope. If like Ranky's, for instance, I know they'll still warranty their product at 212, but 412 is definitely the standard for asphalt shingles, and most roofing types, I think, is kind of just it's a good safe standard. So, all right, Carrie, what do we got next?
All right, so this question comes from Brian in Lovettsville, Virginia. And the question is, I have a PVC cover dome kit. I added R19 fiberglass bat insulation, and then there's one big thinsulate fabric wall. I began getting condensation immediately. I installed 2 larger vents up top and side small soffit vents at the curve of the dome. I also slid foam swimming noodles in between the fiberglass and the PVC cover to create an air gap. But I'm still getting condensation, which is creating watermarks on the large fabric wall. My question is, how do I stop the condensation? Do I need fans?
I'm going to start this out, Derek. Derek and I just took a class, and it amounted to, 16 hours of class. Half of this dealt with condensation, dew point, wall, moisture transfer,
Vapor pressure, all that good stuff.
static, you go up tight, up high on your dome, it's different pressure than down below. So this is a long discussion that we're going to make short. You've got the wrong material on the outside and the wrong material on the inside. This poly that you got on the outside, obviously, if you're saying it's poly, it's totally vapor impermeable. So you need in your climate zone, let me understand what your climate zone is here. Where are you? In Virginia? Yeah, okay, well, there's the cold climate zone. You're in zone 4, doesn't matter. You need an R49 to stop the heat transfer going through that wall and melting the outside. You also need a totally 100% vapor barrier on the inside, unless you put the vapor barrier on the outside, in which case you need the smart membrane on the inside. So there's several things that you're trying to do with materials that are not designed to be a roof in an interior wall. You don't have enough insulation. You have an R19, but is it totally encapsulated? No. You've got to have this moisture coming from the inside getting into there, which then condenses on that poly. You put an airspace between the insulation and the poly, and unless there's ventilation from the bottom to the top with enough insulation on the inside, it's going to condense on that cold surface continually.
Yeah.
You're doing something that is not a standard building material or method. Buildingscience.com. If you guys want to write that down, buildingscience.com gives you all these answers. You can see this, it's enormous as far as the papers, the data that's out there at this company.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, like when it comes to, if you just have one vapor barrier, which is usually what you're going to want, unless you have an airspace between it, like how he's ventilating it, you want the vapor barrier on the warm side generally, because the warm air is going to hold more moisture than the cold air. So if the warm air can work its way through your insulation and into your air cavity that may even be properly ventilated, it's still going to warm up that air cavity enough to condense on that cold surface. So like Dennis said, even if going up to a higher R value is not an option, if you just stuck with the R19, but you created a vapor barrier on the inside where that moisture can't escape into your wall cavity and condense on that PVC lining, that's really the key, is kind of getting a vapor barrier inside to maintain that, not allow that moisture to escape. As you drop every 18 degrees Fahrenheit, essentially the air can only hold half as much water. So if it's 70 degrees inside your dome and it's 30 degrees outside, each time it drops 18 degrees, it's holding half as much water. So if you're at 50% humidity in the dome, you drop 18 degrees, you're already at 100%, it's going to condense somewhere. So if you're dropping 30, 40 degrees, as that air goes through your fiberglass, it's cooling down and then it hits that cold surface and all the water drops right there and then the air just rushes out. So I'm assuming that's what the question is saying, is it's just condensing on the inside of his outer lining, even though it's ventilated. So
it's condensing there and turning into water. It's air vapor, moist air vapor condensing on that surface. And then the sun comes out or something happens with the heat transfer, it's turning to water and getting his inside material, which he said was a thinsulate material on the inside, getting that wet.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think a vapor barrier on the inside is really the only thing you could do to help with something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on with vapor. So yeah, like Dennis said, buildingscience.com, they have a lot of articles on vapor transfer, vapor pressure, vapor mitigation, how to, try to prevent some of those issues. So there might be more detail there too, if we didn't help answer that better. But all right, Carrie, I think we're ready for one more. I think we're not doing too bad. We're getting through a good chunk of these here. So there was a lot that have come in this week. So, all right.
Oh, famous last words, prepare yourself because the chat's on fire, gentlemen. So, all right. So the next question comes from Axel in River Falls, Wisconsin. who has been thinking about building a dome for a while now and would like to gain a better understanding of total costs, material and labor to have one built and maintenance costs.
Okay,
Well,
Dennis, I'll let you grab that. I'll let Carrie know. I think, or I guess since I'm talking, Carrie, I believe we have a little cost shot on there. I think Dennis may have sent to you that kind of helps show that. But Dennis, today you did kind of a 1,500 square foot example of that, I believe, didn't you, on a 36-foot high profile dome?
yeah, our dome site has a menu bar on top, and you want to look for what we call the dome store on the menu bar, and you'll see down from that's a pull down menu, and you'll see a cost construction guide. So it may be hard to really see this. I mean, if you get close to your screen, but the one on the left is the basic guide, and it shows you the cost by quality and quantity, and then by contractor or owner contractor or totally owner built. So there's 4 categories. It's a big matrix. So this is a square foot cost. It does not include, as the note says, no land. It's dealing with septic and well and driveway and other exterior costs as extras. So this is the cost of your dome, the foundation and all the space that you're doing. If you've got a basement, add that square footage into this. In this case, the chart on the right shows 1,500 square feet. That typically, like it says, would be 1,000 square feet in the main floor of a 36-foot diameter dome and 500 square feet on the upper floor, just using that number. Those are your costs. Now, we didn't show you the explanation, which on our website, you can see under dome pricing. You want to go on this list. You have a big explanation for quality A, quality B, and C. And it just means bigger kitchen, more bathrooms, better materials, but you can really splay this thing. You can throw it all out of kilter when you say, well, gee, I want the 6-burner gas stove, you know, the one made by Fox or any other name you want. And it's $20,000 or $25,000 or $30,000. You want a commercial stove, you're going to pay for it. That's going to be the cost of somebody else's kitchen and bathrooms. So what does this do to this quality quantity thing? This is average. And this is an idea so that you are aware of the square footage that you're building. And like I said, you have to include that lower level walkout, basement, upper floor. Are you doing a cupola? That's space that you have to add into that. So it's sort of self-explanatory. You want to find out what the dome costs? This is it. But it's your kitchen cabinets, it's your bathroom, it's your flooring, but it's averaged out. There's a cost range in each one of these categories. Well, I'm going to build a basement, but it's all open, so it's cheap, right? No, it's not. You got to heat it, air condition it. You have to have air-to-air exchangers. They got to deal with that space. You got to waterproof it. No, it's not cheap space anymore. It was in the 50s when my dad built his house and they built concrete block, and that was it. You didn't insulate it, barely waterproofed it because you threw tar on the outside. That was it. Not today. Doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, and that's a common question and a really tough one because there's just so many variables. I mean, building the same exact dome in California, for instance, is going to cost quite a bit more than Nebraska, maybe. Those are kind of my examples I go to because it just depends on labor costs, and material costs will vary from state to state. And so yeah, there's 1,000 variables in there, but yeah, I think this construction guide kind of at least gets you in the ballpark to kind of a good starting spot. Dennis does offer a MAC dome budget if you get to the point where you're really seriously considering a dome and you want to have it broken down. What is it, 400 and some line items I think you go through, Dennis, to really try to get as accurate a number as possible. So there is, you know, when the time comes and you are really ready to kind of crunch the numbers and you know what you want to do, we can definitely get more precise on that. But this is definitely a good ballpark one. I think most, you know, this is pretty this is pretty accurate. And then the calculator, you just put in the square foot and it gives you all the options. And it also shows how much of it are you planning on doing yourself versus hiring somebody to do 100% of the work. So it kind of covers all that. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay, Carrie, I think we're ready for another one.
Okay, well,
and-
I'm gonna, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to interrupt, by the way, and say, as we're going through questions, please feel free to jump in. I mean, we really want you guys to be able to interact with this, especially when it's your question. And some questions may lead to other questions. We have a lot we need to get through. But if as we're discussing this, you kind of think about something, or it was your question, we're not answering exactly what you were wondering about, feel free to jump in and participate. So sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
That's okay. There was a question in the chat a while back, and since we were talking about the construction cost calculator, do those costs reflect the current high prices of lumber and building materials on that calculator?
Let's put it this way. The prices on that calculator were raised here in December after the increase that occurred in September and October didn't go down, because that people were saying, oh, it's a high point and it's going to drop, because it dropped a little bit in November, and then December came along and the prices went up and I bumped those prices up. Guess what? Prices are still going up. If you're in California, you can probably, at this point, I'm going to say add between 35 to 50%. I mean, it is crazy. We've been getting some pricing quotes and we've changed our prices, and we're, just dealing with the market out there. So it is a situation. It's expected to level off. It's expected to do this, but nobody knows. So you're going to deal with different situations in different climates. Canada might not have the same thing as we have in the US with different materials. But our price right now on that from a cost standpoint, it's somewhat reasonable. At least to get you into a ballpark range. I'd probably say overall cost on a house is probably 10, 15% more. But and it's shortage of materials. That's the other part of it. So what took us in past years, we could get material in 3 weeks. It's now 6 weeks. So that's the other part of the game that we're playing here with the whole industry. And it's all, you go to a conventional house developer, it's the same situation. They can't even close on some houses because they couldn't get the right laundry sink or the washer dryer units. They couldn't get the right stove. But yeah, so we could go on and talk about why, but we're not. We're going to answer some other questions here.
Okay, great. So this question is coming from Turkey, and it looks like the question is, do we sell a one hub and one sleeve alone? I'm guessing from your notes that that's what the question says.
I did a translation on that one, so not myself, but Google. No, we don't. We sell them as an individual kit. So you're going to buy a 26-foot group of them. We don't sell individual components, one hub or one sleeve. So that's just our policy. It has been our policy since we started. So the smallest kit that we do is a 2-frequency dome, and that involves 26 hubs, and so that equates to a bunch of struts and different parts of sleeves and stuff. We do separate out nuts and bolts when we're shipping, especially across to the world. However, the domes in Cyprus, we have 4 domes on Cyprus. Those were shipped as complete kits from here in the container. And we let you price it out. We'll say, here are the nuts and bolts. Here's your metric equivalent. What can you buy them for where you are? So if you can get them cheaper or we can get them cheaper, doesn't matter. We'll take some of those nuts and bolts and standard components out of the package. So, okay.
Right, thank you. So the next question's from Kristen in Julian, California, and she's wondering, well, she needs a roofer. So do we have recommendations, or what do we do with people who are looking for roofers, which it sounds like is kind of a theme for tonight.
Well, I'm going to keep coming back to this. The theme answer is chapter 16 from our construction manual. You can download it. You can make copies of it yourself. So for $30, you can download that chapter and interview roofers. You want somebody who says, gee, that's interesting. This is an interesting structure. You don't want somebody coming along, and you will find many, many people, many roofers that go, oh yeah, I've done a dome before. Well, have they really? Do they know what's involved? We know what price it should be, but what you're dealing with is they're gonna, we've seen it several times, where they start out a project and they give you a really good figure, really lowball figure, and you go, oh, that's all it is? Okay, fine. You start them out, and within a couple of days, they don't come back. That's really the name of the game, because they didn't realize that it takes more time to do the roof, because you got to get up there and do the roof.
Well, and I would say too, it's not that it's hard to do a dome. There are some tricks to it, and that's where chapter 16 comes involved, or comes into play. But really, I think, you know, my take on it is, if you find a good roofer and he's got some good referrals and he understands what he, you know, that it is going to take longer, which a good roofer will understand that. And you as the homeowner to say, I want you to follow, you know, this manual, it's going to help, you know, just give me the peace of mind it's getting done properly. And for a good roofer, they'll be able to look at it in 5 or 10 minutes. So just a couple of details that are unique about a dome, and they'll be like, okay, this is easy, and they'll be off and running, and your roof will get done properly. But we make that available just for that reason, so that if you're somewhere where we don't know a roofer, we could refer to you, for instance. You can just find a good roofer in the area, and with that manual, they'll have no problem doing the job properly, and you'll have a roof that should last for 50 years without any issues. So, yeah.
All right. Oh, sorry, Dennis. I didn't want to cut you off. But we have a great, another great question from Keshia in Castlegar, Canada, British Columbia, Canada. How open concept can you go underneath the second floor? So if you have a half floor across, does it need a lot of support?
Generally, there's going to be some walls on that main floor. You can span easy with a very ordinary piece of laminated beam or a microlam beam. You can span, 18 or 20 feet. It's not complicated. That's a long span. So if there's a wall for a toilet, for the bathroom and the wall going around it, you got a bedroom on the main floor, you've got walls there. And you're going to have a certain amount of distance that you can go with a beam. What you're looking at here, this is our second floor. So here's a situation where we've got the beams are cantilevered out. So this balcony sticks out, and we've got a 4-foot cantilever here, and over here, by the way I framed it on this side over here, we have a 6-foot cantilever that goes back. So that can be handled. We can deal with those things. This is part of it. It's the visual effect of having a balcony up here, and you're dealing with, this is a railing up here. These are the log railing with the bark still on. So it's all in the design of that. There's a bedroom in back here, and this is the bathroom back over here that you're seeing the door open there. So there's walls around separating this. If you wanted it totally open and you have a fireplace in the middle, your fireplace is going to support it. And this one does. Underneath these beams right here, built into this wall system behind this is really fake rock. It's ledge rock, but it's concrete, colored concrete. So that's supporting the second floor. That's supporting these beams that are coming out and cantilevering out to the front. So it isn't a situation with that it can't be done. It's just a matter of why do you need all that space and you're not using the underneath the floor? You're not using that for more rooms. If you're not, if it's open, okay, from here to the next wall, if you want to look at that way, if you had a beam that went from here to there, that looks like about a 14-foot span. You can do that with a triple 2x12 if you were running the joists differently. You can span 16 feet with 2x12 floor joists very easily, 16 inches on center. So that's the thing that we try to work out with you. We're going to draw a plan that's economical to build and ask the question, if that's totally wide open, what's your use of that space? You're doing, I don't know. We've had different requests from people. Well, I want this. I mean, the one that comes to mind really was downstairs. They wanted 8 feet clear in the basement of this dome going around. It's a big 49-foot diameter dome. So they wanted nothing, no walls going to the outside walls. They wanted this 8 foot in from that, and you could put your walls. Not a problem support-wise, but they did rollerblading, and they wanted this big rink, I mean, not rink, but ring going around so they could go around that and not have any walls interfering. We've done a long central hallway, 6 feet wide, down on a lower level. He had an archery range down there and wanted it. This was another 49-foot dome. So he had a 45, 46-foot space. So it's all a design and it's all in what you want. And we can easily do long spans. We have the material today, the technology to do it. I think I'll leave this back over here on this one.
All right, well, thanks, Dennis. So our next question comes from Dory Joy, and Dory was on with us, at least earlier. I haven't checked the list yet. Is from Michigan, and she's asking, do we build monolithic domes or, let's see, what was the other one? Monolithic domes or monolithic earth berm greenhouses?
You want to talk?
Sure. We build geodesic domes. And really the difference between monolithic and geodesic is, I guess there's two main differences. One is usually the materials that they're made out of. And a monolithic dome essentially is often concrete, I think almost always concrete, at least for the structural ones. And they just form one, like semi-sphere. It's just kind of a one-piece shell, where a geodesic dome is made out of more traditional construction materials for homes, and therefore it's made out of straight pieces that form triangles and kind of give you the spherical shape. So they're really two different types of domes. They're both obviously domes, so they're going to be somewhat spherical, but a monolithic dome is going to be more of a smooth sphere, where ours is going to be a little more angular because it's made out of straight components, which makes it easier to build, construct more user-friendly materials, and you can expand on it. You can do things with it. It's a little easier to punch a hole into a geodesic dome than a monolithic dome, for instance. So we're not really in the monolithic business, but I'm not sure if there's really too many, I know those one guys, I'm not sure if they're still doing it or not, but for like an earth berm home, something like that is gonna perform better because it's gonna be concrete. And so it's gonna give you a little bit more strength in that respect to try to hold back, the ground. And if you're on and you want to ask a question, if we're maybe not addressing what you're wondering about, but yeah, we do geodesic domes. It's a little bit different. So,
do you ever do geodesic earth berm homes?
I can answer that question real quick. Back in 1980, I did 18 to 20 earth burned homes, and one of which did partially earth covered on part of the roof. These weren't domes. These were an adjunct to what we were doing back then. And what happened, and this is what happened, it's the Underground Space Center was at the University of Minnesota. That was a big deal in the 70s and 80s, late 70s and 80s. what we really discovered was the energy savings, which is what people were after at that point, wasn't worth the cost. And as far as a dome concerned, to try to put dirt on a dome, it's going to slide down when it gets down to that bottom part. I won't go into the long detail of it, but we even had a book out, and the name that I gave it was Earthitecture. And these 20 houses are still around. I run into people, I go, they say, "Hi, Dennis." And I go, "Oh, who are you?" You know, "Well, I own one of your houses." And so, no, you're going to have more energy efficiency in our domes. That's why we said we started to go to 12-inch, 15-inch, 18-inch, 21-inch, 24-inch walls that are cheap. So we can get you want an R82, you want an R90, we can do that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Really easy.
I'm looking to get completely off the grid. So the reason why I was thinking about the earth berm home is just because it helps with the temperature of the home.
But ours does too.
Okay.
We're getting radiant floor heating here. This is Minnesota. Like I said, we got 3 days coming up, -2 is the high. Our yearly bill, the average for the last 10 years, I just did that, the average is $530 a year.
That's amazing.
3,200 square feet of space, 2,100 square feet on the main floor, and another 1,100 square feet on the upper floor. And that's this is Minnesota. We're in north central. We're, up, not on the bottom. We're in the middle of Minnesota. So this is what we're saying is that we can do this. We've got an R64 in the walls, triple pane windows.
Wow.
These kind of things that are going to do you good.
Thank you.
The earth just isn't going to do it.
Okay.
All right, I'll jump in real quick, Carrie, because I just noticed it's 7 o'clock. So we're probably still going to try to grab, we usually try to grab as many as we can, if not all of them, without keeping everybody longer. But hopefully if you can't stay past 7, we're able to get to your question. If not, we're trying to put some recordings up. We're still learning a lot about all the different transitions here into the world of the Zoom videos and everything, but we're trying to get all these made available for you later. So if you're not unable to stay on past 7 and we haven't gotten to your question, we will either still get to it or we may have to save it for our next Dome talk if we're not able to get to them all today. But we are hoping to post these videos. So if we don't get to it and you don't see it, hopefully we'll get it posted. Maybe you can check back later and see. But how many, do you know how many questions we got left, Carrie? Or do you think we can take another one for sure, but how long did you want to go, Dennis, or what's your thoughts?
There's a bunch of questions here that are real simple to answer.
Okay, you want to just maybe jump into them?
Yeah, we've got 4 official questions and then a ton of chat questions that we probably won't get to tonight, but we can start with the official ones.
You want to kind of do like a lightning round approach to it, Dennis? And I mean, you got the questions there too. Do you want to maybe kind of, you might be able to efficiently run through them a little quicker than Carrie maybe.
So the next question on this list here is, when will the larger version of the mini dome be available? When
Okay.
A 20 dome, mini dome, and we cut it so there's 3/5 of the dome encased in walls and 2/5 is open, it's gone. So if you haven't seen the mini dome, I don't know if I got a picture here to put up on the screen. And people have asked, well, can I build a bigger one? Because on the main floor, it's only 400 square feet with another 125 square feet upstairs. You can do that in a 33 foot, in a 36 foot, in a 38 foot, in a 40-foot dome. You could do the same thing. It'd just be a bigger dome. So when will it be available? I just haven't had anybody say, yeah, draw me a plan for a 36-foot diameter mini dome. So if you want to come along and get that right, the space the way you want it, you can do it. You can put that, yeah, Carrie, you had the plan up there. There's a sunscreen over the windows. We basically chopped 2/5 of the dome away and then created vertical walls with conventional windows. So that's what we'll say. That can be larger. You want 800 square feet on the main floor, we could do that.
Okay. Yeah, it would be, I am kind of looking forward to the next time somebody goes with a bigger one just to see, get some good pictures of it. So,
The question next is, are there builders available in the Northeast to build dome homes? Yeah, conventional builders. I mean, the answer is there. We've worked with a lot of conventional builders. There was one in the Northeast, he retired. But many people, we've got a lot of homes in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Maine, all over the place. So,
yeah.
and we have the Dome School. That's an educational tool for the builders. So we're dealing with a virtual Dome School coming up here in May 1st and 2nd. And the builder can sit there and listen to that. It's a 2-day event, 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday. And that's where he'll get all the basics. He'll learn all these answers, all these things that we've been talking about. We talk about in Dome School over 8 hours instead of 1 hour here. So we try to answer your specific questions here is what we're trying to do. So another question is about constructing a matching dome garage. I
Oh, we
assume
got a picture of that.
garage to the house dome is what you meant. And we did have a picture that I had sent in. It's Burroughs is the name of the client. And it's kind of one of the ones that we show on our website a lot. And we integrate that with a connecting link between the garage and the house. So it's a matter of how you want it to look, but you can see here, it certainly complements the dome. There's a really nice entrance on the side, and it's sort of like, you know, a nice version of what you would see in a conventional house with this 3-stall garage staring you in the face, except when you drive up, you see the entrance, you see the other dome, that's your interest level. So we try to plan that out with you, and it works very well.
Hi, sorry, I'm the one who asked that question. And thank you for that answer. And I love the way this looks. Not critical, but ideally I'd like to have some like loft space, studio space, maybe kitchenette or something. I don't feel like I have the requirement that you asked the first garage question where it has to all be open. I mean, my requirement is just get vehicles in and out. But this picture that you're showing, does it have a loft or could it have a loft, or is this just all open garage space?
This could have a loft. It doesn't. The customer that built this didn't need that, but it has the, you know, look at the height of the garage door. It's 7 feet. So the top of that where the beam is 8 feet. So yeah, there's more than enough room for a loft up there. Like I said, we have both, our shop domes have lofts in them, and we set the loft 10 feet off the main floor, and there's still room upstairs to stand up and walk around.
And we're working currently with some customers that are basically doing, I think, what you're asking about, where they have 2 domes side by side, and essentially the one above the garage is a complete second floor up there. So it's a high profile. So in this particular picture, the dome is a low profile because they weren't going to use that space. But if you look at the dome behind it, that is their home. As a high profile, essentially you could take that and put that on the garage, and you could give yourself you know, an extra, what, 6-7 feet in height. And then that would give you basically a full upper floor that you could use. So some people do it. We're working with somebody right now that's doing that very thing. So it's no problem.
Thank you so much. This is like, I'm definitely going to follow up with you guys in an email because this is exactly what I want to do. Thank you.
Cool.
Good.
Cool. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Dennis.
So I'm skipping down to another one basically that just talks about financing. How do you deal with financing? And it's sometimes a hard question because you're dealing with a banker, you're dealing with a loan officer, you're dealing with different loan officers within, like Wells Fargo. And they say, oh no, we don't loan on domes. When in fact, we have a list from a recent survey, not a recent, an older survey that we did 10 years ago. There's 30 some domes on this list that were financed by Wells Fargo. So what you're going to run into is you need to go into a local bank where they may carry the loan. They don't have as much of an issue. You're dealing with a 20% equity on your part. So if you own the land and you have enough cash to make your total deal where you've invested 20%, that's what they want. They'll give you a mortgage. If you're looking for an FHA loan with 5% down, they need to be one of the banks that uses FHA as part of their financing. FHA has a clause that with Dome homes, and it says this in the FHA, I didn't bring anything to show you that clause, but it says to find a comparable from a standpoint of getting an appraisal on a dome and getting the bank to understand that appraisal, you just need another conventional custom-built house. Something that is out of the ordinary, get an appraisal on that. That's the match for the dome, assuming square footage match, but they compensate for square footage differences. So you just have to find a banker that's willing to work with you. There are different agencies. We do have a short list of some different companies that do loan on domes, and there's some rural development companies. I forgot the name of that thing again here, but they've loaned on a couple of the domes, on several of the domes. Veterans, yeah, there's a loan basis there that deals with FHA, that deals with HUD. These days, there are so many domes out there that you can find somebody who's got a loan or somebody who's going to use that for an appraisal. But like I say, if deal with FHA, they don't need to be having a dome for a comparable.
All right. How are we doing? Did we get through them all, or we got a couple more still?
Oh, there's a couple more.
Okay.
I looked
Yeah.
through.
I think
Lots
you
of
just
good
have
questions.
I think you just have the one left about, are there builders available in the Northeast to build dome homes?
Oh, we got that one already.
We did that one?
Carrie.
Oh, sorry,
Yep.
I have been busy in the chat.
Yeah. Did you have some good chat questions? Maybe we could try to get to quick at why Dennis, or did you find it, Dennis?
I'm going to get to one that I think I sent you some of the detail on, the Monterey Dome.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you answer that, and I'll show Carrie what ones you need there.
Okay. So the question is that this guy has a Monterey Dome. His house was erected in 83 to 85. The roof is 2x4 with hubs. I'm unsure if these hubs will need replacing when the beams are replaced. Where can I find these hubs? And the sheathing is 1/2 inch. Is that still recommended? Between the roof and the ceiling, he's got 3-inch thick insulation and then gypsum board sheetrock on the inside. Monterey Domes is out of business. Cathedral Light Domes are out of business. There's several companies that were gone. Here, we have a full set of Monterey Dome plans. Here's their hub system. It's a spline system that you cut a slot on the end of a 2x, and that's what you're going to get. So yeah, you want this replaced, you want this to deal with, and you're going to have a situation where we've got the plans. If for some reason, there shouldn't be a reason that you need a hub. This hub right here, it's steel. You would have serious problems already noted if this thing was so bad that hub failed. You got a strut that fails? We've done it. We've replaced, and I've actually talked to somebody who had that, and you can take it apart. You can deal with it just individually, take the part out. There's another slide you want to show up. It's Carruthers Dome. That one, you want to find that one because this is a project that we did. where it wasn't our dome. It was my old company's dome. I had a company called the Big Outdoors People back in the 70s. And that dome was built in the 70s. And we came in and it had not been maintained. That was the real thing. It's on Lake Superior. So we came in and we basically took out a complete section of the dome and repaired it all, right down to the floor. When we opened up the riser wall, there's rotten floor. There's a hole that you could reach down in and go to the ceiling on the lower level.
I don't know if we got those ones loaded, Dennis, but we'll have to bring those up for the next one for sure, because those are good photos to show.
Domes can be repaired very easily. We could take out a section of a dome. I mean, I should turn this around somewhere to show our section here that we took out up on top. I'm going to lift this up. It's hard to see, but up here, we took out a section of a dome more than just one pentagon because we knew how to brace the walls. When we go to repair a dome, if that's the situation, to tell you how to do it or show you.
We don't repair.
Yeah, we don't really repair. We have, but we're not really. We're producing dome shell kits is really what our main business is. But we certainly will advise. We certainly will look at the photos that you got. You take video. But it's a situation where people are afraid of this. We've taken out a large section of the dome to repair it. And in this particular dome right here, there's 250 struts. You want to take out 5, 6, 7, 8, go right ahead. It's a small portion of it. The dome is going to hold up the rest of that dome. So it's not an issue.
Insulation question.
The other question that came up, I'm going to switch on because that one we will talk about in the next one and deal with some things. There's somebody that asked the question of the high cost of our insulation. And I'm not sure that I'm reading it right, but it may be that you look on our site under the insulation section and you'll see the cost of a roll of insulation. And we're talking, $190, $250, even some rolls that are $300 and some dollars for a roll of insulation. And you say, well, I can go to Lowe's. I can buy a roll of insulation for $49. It's not the same thing. We're talking 6-foot wide, 8-foot wide rolls of insulation that are 25 to 50 feet long. And we cut one-piece triangles out of this insulation. It's also high-density insulation. It's not like the Pink Panther stuff that's got a little bag around it so you don't get any of their long fibers. This stuff is a high-density, short-fibered, no phenolic resins, no formaldehyde, 35% recycled. So recycled glass, fiberglass is recycled glass. So it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about a roll of insulation, 8 feet wide and 35 feet long, 40 feet long.
Right. Well, and another thing is possibly, because really in theory, a dome of equal size should require less insulation than a conventional house of the same size, because part of what gives domes such great energy efficiency is the surface area where they lose heat. So a dome it requires less surface area to enclose a certain amount of space than like a conventional home. So in theory, in a dome, a 1,000 square foot dome, 1,000 square foot house, the dome should actually require 25 to 30% less insulation to give you the same, R value throughout the shell of the whether it's the conventional home or the dome home should be the same. So it should actually be less money to insulate a dome of the same size, or if you spent the same amount of money as a conventional house, you should have a lot more insulation, a lot higher R value. So it's actually cheaper to insulate a dome ultimately, but yeah, our rolls are fairly expensive because like Dennis said, they're kind of a unique size and they work perfectly for what we do, where we don't have stud spacing in between those triangles. So they're just big open voids. So you don't have all this transfer through the structure, and you can fill it up, with one nice piece of insulation. So, yeah.
To go on to one other question that was out there as far as the so-called inefficiency of the domes, because they aren't using conventional square material or a square house, and claiming that the square house is really efficient. The next time you're near a new house going up, look at what they have in the yard. Look at what they have out there, and you'll see a dumpster, a 20-yard dumpster full of miscellaneous stuff that they're throwing away. The house on the left is a conventionally built house. Look at all that lumber in that roof. Now, look on the right and you see the dome structure. And this structure that you're seeing is this house. This is a 49-foot diameter dome with 2,100 square feet on the main floor. That counts, the dome itself is 1,800 square feet, and it's got a 300-foot addition. But this is it. The dome that you're looking at will take 100-pound snow load as a minimum and 150-mile-an-hour wind speed rating as a minimum. The house on the left is probably designed, if it was designed in Minnesota, it's designed for 50-pound or 60-pound snow load. That's it. They don't over-design. And the wind speed rating they normally use is 115 miles, 115 miles per hour. We're talking 150 as far as what our engineer said, will at least take that much. And really, like I said, it's a minimum design for the dome. So the inefficiency, and also look at the picture, look at all the lumber he's got sitting outside in the yard, ready to go into that house. Yet it's framed up, but there's more lumber waiting to go into it. There's another picture that goes with this, Derek, that shows a garbage can, and then in the shop, there. The lumber on the left is what we use for the interior paneling. So all of this paneling that we have here is spruce paneling, 16-foot long boards. This garbage can shows you the amount of scrap that we get from a 16-foot long board. That's it. We cut panels out of this. We have a special way to lay it up, and it's that efficient. So really, that's what I want to point out. We don't have a lot of waste. We go back to the dome picture, and what you're seeing is something, yeah, even those pictures, go through those slides, Carrie. What you're dealing with is this plywood gusset that holds the 2x8 to the 2x4. That's what you're seeing here. It's a 2x8 with a 2x4. The plywood gussets come out of the scrap plywood. You cut a triangle out of a rectangular piece, now you got two right triangles. We cut that into the scrap material. We don't have enough wood scrap to fire our outside wood-fired boiler that we use for heat. Not here, but in the other complex. So it's not wasteful. It's actually much more efficient. We have 60% less lumber going into this house than a conventional house. And with the one that I just showed you, I'm probably going to say it's 75% less lumber because of the way they used it. They're not using advanced framing. They're not using a lot of new techniques. We've been doing domes for 50 years. We know how efficient in the material usage that we are having. And we are using high grade material on the outside and construction grade on the inside of this 2x material, 2x8 and 2x4. So
Cool.
I
Cool.
think I might have answered that question for that person.
Well, and did that get through them all? I mean, I'm kind of surprised. We had a lot of people. I see in the chat we went over 100 chat lines a long time ago, so we probably have a lot of chat questions that popped up as well. But I don't know. So what do you think, Dennis? We're at about 7:24. Do you want to see if there's Carrie had any chat questions?
Is there a theme that Carrie's seeing on some chat questions?
Yeah. What you got,
Um,
Carrie?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I'm not super sure where to start. It sounds like, someone was asking about what foundation options are available for building a dome. This is our friend from New Zealand. I think that I've seen all that I've seen it built on concrete, but is a piled foundation also possible and practical?
Yes, any kind of conventional foundation, you can build it underneath the dome. We can do slab on grade, crawl space, basement, pier footings, not an issue. It's a matter of what your soil type is, what your terrain is. The dome in Sedona had a slab on the back half that they blasted on a flat area on this side of the mountain they were building on. And the front half is done on concrete piers. So foundation is all part of what we are into for designing that with you on the plan. And your site, we got to know your site. We need a contour plan. We'd like to have pictures of the site. So all that enters into it. The terrain, the slope, drainage, you got to have water drainage going around. We're on the edge of a bluff here, 30 feet above a river, a creek, and we are about 5 feet from the edge of the bluff. That's a consideration because you may have something that says you got to be so far back from the water, so you got to know your site. And you may also have a septic system that affects part of this design because the septic has to find the right kind of soil on your site. And you do a soil test and you'll find out. That'll tell you what kind of soil you have. Right here where we are, we've got 3 feet of good soil, topsoil, and 14 feet of clay below that. It's a solid foundation underneath us, but we did a frost-protected shallow footing. That's another type that we use, and it's a treated wood foundation.
Same
So-
floor, same concrete floor.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, the concrete floor that you're looking at is a stained concrete floor. So that's what you're looking at here. We have an area rug underneath our couch, but that's it. Carpeting is not something that you should be using today. If you value your health, you don't want to use carpeting. I can go into long stories on that. I won't. Don't use carpeting. Area rugs are just fine. This is a warm floor. We do exercise down on the floor and it's just so comfortable. And walking around on a concrete floor, you think it's hard. You're not, unless you're standing around all the time, if you're going to do one thing and stand around in one area, buy an anti-fatigue mat. Put that right there. But with a warm floor and your hands are warm, it's the same temperature upstairs as it is here. That's this radiant floor system that we have. And the concrete slab is doing it. It's insulated below with 4 inches of foam insulation. That's what you want to do across the bottom of that slab. So we really are into foundations with you. So it depends on your site. You're in a floodplain, we know how to deal with it. Got to be above the flood line. You got to build on the coast. You got to be so many feet above mean sea level for the tidal wave that's going to go underneath your dome. So.
All right, all right. Did you have another good one, Carrie, for us?
Sure. I'm wondering the answer. I think I know the answer to this, but I want the official answer. What is the price difference between Ranky shingles and asphalt shingles?
I can take that one, Dennis. That one's something I talk to customers a lot about. Really, the shortest way to say it is it's about 3 times the money. The materials, the shakes cost about twice as much, a little more than twice as much as the shingles. The underlayment costs about 3 times as much, 2 to 3 times as much as a typical underlayment for asphalt shingles. And the labor is going to probably be twice as much as well, if not closer to 3 times, because it's just a unique product. A lot of roofers don't have a lot of experience with it, so they're not as quick at installing it. So that's going to slow them down. So you're looking at a minimum of twice as much money as a traditional asphalt shingle roof, possibly as high as 3 times the money. However, in return for that, you get phenomenal performance. It does better at reflecting solar heat gain. It does better at protection against hailstorms. It lasts, in theory, it should last over 100 years. There's a lot of advantages to it. And it's also made out of a recycled product that's is better for the environment. Everything about it is actually an advantage except for the cost. So I guess that would be my take on it. Dennis, what do you think?
Tesla says it looks better.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I actually think it looks better for the environment. It lasts forever. Yeah, it's a premium product. So like most premium products, like, granite countertops, when they came along, everything about it's great except for the cost is kind of a premium cost as well. So
There's no reason that the dome should be looked at as a 100-year plus structure. Our daughter bought a house in Minneapolis. It's 1928. That's 90 years we're dealing with. Houses that were built in the 1700s. We got friends that own a farmhouse in Connecticut in 1750. Gorgeous, 24-inch wide plank floors, but it's still there because it was maintained. It was built right. Water wasn't an issue. All these things that make it last long. So you got to do it right and buy your materials right, get the right kind of product in there. That's what you need on that outside. Talk about asphalt shingles, we talk about this 50-year roof. The dome that we built in 1975 was remodeled in 83. We put on 35-year shingles in 1983. It's now 38 years old. I don't have any pictures to show you, but the shingles are just fine. It looks like certainly 5 years, if not 10 years more on this 35-year shingle. So that's what you want to do. You don't want to re-shingle it because you use 3-tab shingles. And 10 years from now, you got to take those off and do something else. Pay for the extra cost of the material now. Prices are only going to go up. Labor cost is a big part of that. So you pay for that labor once instead of twice in your lifetime.
2 follow-up questions to the Rinky Shakes question is, one, do they require the ends of the shingles to be bent over the ends of the panels? And then 2, what about a totally metal roof? And I know you've answered this in previous dome talks, but those are the 2 follow-ups to the Ranky Shake question.
right. You want me to jump in that, Dennis, or do you want to grab that one?
Go ahead.
So they do not have to be bent over the edges. In fact, and I wish I could have showed that picture here, but one of the nicest Rinky roofs I just saw was done just recently, and there was no bending of the Rankys at all. He just went up to the edges on the one triangle, and the other triangle that came over, it just overlapped about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and it was just cut straight, and it looks really, really sharp. So no, they don't have to be bent over. Some people do bend them, and it does work. In fact, we had a couple of domes that went up, some small domes for camping domes in Michigan, and on their Facebook page, they sent us some photos, and they actually bent them around a couple of the panels, and it looked pretty nice, and it did work. But usually when you got something corrugated like that, when you go to bend it, if you bend at an angle, one side wants to fan out more than the other. So they're not, it's not as easy, but you can do it, and it does look good, but not required. And sorry, Carrie, I already forgot the second half of that question, I guess, or the second question.
What about a full metal roof?
Oh,
Okay, so a full metal roof, you mean standing seam roof. There's
yeah,
actually
that's my take.
standing seam roof works on only a 29-foot sawtooth riser wall dome. Because I can show you the photo of that was done, and I can see how they made it work. But any other dome with all the triangles and all the angles going different ways, you can try it. You can be the first one to rack your brain and try to figure out how the standing seam is going to work on all these different angles. But I don't think it will.
They work on extension.
they work well on extensions. We have this extension over here for the front entry, and our roof has standing seam. But the mistake that was made, we started on the outside edge of the porch roof and worked our way towards the dome and ended up with the standing seam coming into part of the dome that catches all the pine needle leaves. So start from the dome and work your way to like 16 or 24 inches. So it's a clean area for the rain to come down and wash that out of it. There's another roof that somewhere on our website, you'll be able to find it. It's copper, rolled sheets of copper. So a roll of copper that's looks like about 16 inches, 18 inches wide. You're not going to find it. It's kind of buried in there. So this is done in Japan, up in Sapporo. And they took this sheet and they went and they rolled the bottom of that copper, and then the other one was rolled the other way. So they integrated and followed the rain slope down. So with that, oh, she did find it. Okay. So with that, they have these rows of copper, and somebody had said to me, okay, how do I get that done? I like that. What do I do? My answer is call the architect in Japan and have him hire the guy that did the roof in Japan and fly him over here, and you'll have a copper roof going around. Very, very nice and expensive. But the problem you have then is now you need that barbed wire fence going around your property to stop people from stealing the copper roof off your dome. So.
All right. Anything else, Carrie?
Well, we do have one participant who's been feverishly trying to get her microphone to work, and I think we've got it. So did you want to ask your question?
Sure, let's do it.
See if I lost my chat window. Let's see. Are you there, CD? Let me see if I can see that. We thought we had it. I don't think it's coming through though.
Okay. Did you have any other good chats, or should we, what are you guys thinking?
It's probably time. We got to cut it off.
You're muted, Carrie.
I'm muted. I think that just means the end of it, right? We have several questions left, but from the chat, but they're fairly complex. So I think it's a good time to maybe call it for the night.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and we're gonna try and do this every 2 weeks. So if you guys came on to listen but got inspired, or a question came up and you asked us in the chat, we didn't get to it, you can definitely jump on for next week's, and we try to prioritize anybody that gives us questions in advance. That way we can. I'm sorry, Dennis, what's that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. Every 2 weeks we're trying to do this. So if you guys have questions, we try to make sure to get to them. And if we get them early enough, we can try to, throw a few photos on there that might help with them as well. So we always appreciate people that know they want to be there in a couple of weeks and give us some heads up. So if you have a question, or you jumped in the chat and it didn't get answered, you want to find out next week, just hop on and send us that question. And we try to kind of take it as a first come, first serve. So if you get in right away, we'll make sure to get to you. So I guess that's it for me. What do you got, Dennis?
The other thing would be, if you do have a complex question, you can go on our page that has consultation. We can set these up. They're set up on usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the first half hour is free. And then if it's longer than that, you're paying for our time. So we offer that. It's available on our website. Again, it's on the menu bar. It says consultation. Click on that and you'll see the explanation. So.
All right. Well, yeah. I think the 24th then, February 24th is our next one. So maybe we'll see some of you guys back here on the 24th. And yeah, thank you guys very much for coming on. A lot of people stuck with us for a whole extra almost 40 minutes here. So this is going down as one of our longer ones. So yeah, we appreciate everybody for sticking around, and maybe we'll see some of you next time.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone, to our international
Thank you.
friends. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks a lot. It's really nice to hear the gospel from you guys.
Good. Appreciate
We'll
it.
keep coming back.
I'll try to be back.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.